Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Avalon and today we're going to be going through a troll level called Curiosity Killed Myself by Major314. Let's get straight into this one. Okay, starting with this first room. You obviously need a mushroom to get up past this wiggler here, and so the first thing you're going to do is turn the on-off switch the other direction. However, upon doing so, a muncher falls down and your mushroom is destroyed by a P-switch, and suddenly your muncher is destroyed as well. And a mushroom falls into this one tile gap. Now, collecting this mushroom is surprisingly simple once you know the timing, but it's an odd way to start the level. That would also give you the access to climb past this piranha plant and then up through the pipe to the top. Once making your way through the pipe, you'll find yourself in this room. Now, this symbol here is a very simple setup for a link arrow to be shot in the upward direction from this point. Obviously that arrow should come over the top here and then down onto the P-switch, releasing you to progress forwards through the level. However, in fact, when you shoot that arrow, it triggers an on-off switch, causing this cannon to fall down and a vine to fall behind it. Now, if you're on the wrong side of this cannon, you better prepare to be hit by fireballs, because there is no way to jump over it and you need to choose a death between fire or ice. And when you're climbing the vine as well, you also have this donut here, which is fantastic as it bonks you off the vine into that area I was speaking of, which would kill you. My final point around this is you can see the contraption that makes it work, and that's not always best practice. It's best to try and hide your contraptions. So just showing you, if you climb facing forward as you would do, having run from avoiding that cannon, your butt will automatically be to the right and you will butt bounce straight into the icicle and into this pit where you pick your death between the hot or the cold extremities. Assuming you've been watching your weight and you don't bunch your butt on the donut, you can drop down here into this section where you have a snowball and a clear setup for a link dash attack to get across this bridge of piranha plants. Now, I've seen this setup before in troll levels where they have hidden blocks behind some of the dashing points, so I thought I'd clear it with arrows initially, only to find that I couldn't actually clear the last one out, so you do have to make the dash. So planning for an invisible block, but there isn't one. Instead there is this snowball. Upon revealing what's behind the snowball, you will find yourself a fire flower, and this will stop you bombing this section here, forcing you to go into the disrespect block and take that death. You cannot proceed without Link's bombs. With a bomb to help you proceed, I actually made the decision to go back and get this fire flower plant. I've seen this setup before and thought I'd give it a try. This snowball is so perfectly timed, it's unreal. Upon this snowball falling down, you will find yourself kicking it and it will hit a on-off switch behind the saw and then drop a cannon blocking your progression. A really clever setup, and no matter what you do, unless you hit it with a link sword or hit it with a fireball, you cannot reach this ledge without destroying that snowball and having this cannon block your way. A really clever setup and a really good way to end this section. That then brings us to this section here, where it is a simple check: did you take the fire flower or not, or did you choose to stay as Link? If you chose to stay as Link, you wouldn't have been able to damage boost all the way through that wait period and get all the way down. Now this bit here is one of my favourite trolls in the level by far, and it's a really simple one. Now there's a known trick of using Link's sword to jump up springs to bounce them higher so you can get underneath them, and players may be tempted to try this with this spring being here. The only reason they wouldn't try to do that is there is no punishment for them messing up. So in order to improve this particular troll, I would put a icicle here so that if they did bounce backwards, there was some form of punishment for them. It would be hard to implement, and maybe using spikes here so they have to jump forward to get to here and then they bounce back into the spikes. However, if they do try and go under the spring, they will find it actually is a hidden block with another spring blocked inside it, completely blocking off the path to the checkpoint that they can see so close. Really good troll. Definitely one of the better points of the level. After that, you reach a checkpoint and you no longer have to worry about that first section, you only have to worry about what is to follow. First, you have this shiny block here, which seems to be wasting your time, but actually makes no difference to the level at all. This is the sort of troll that is brilliant right now. It doesn't affect the level in any way, but the player will be wondering, do they need to wait, do they not need to wait? It really creates a sort of challenge in the player's mind instead of the level creating a challenge. It's a really clever idea and I like that quite a lot. This setup here is very clever. It looks like you're going to need 2 full long jumps to get across. However, if you were holding A, you would find yourself plummeting to your death here, or hitting the spikes from not being able to stop in time. Assuming you make it to this brick block here, you then just have a simple jump up to the sword in order to place a link bomb and progress through the level. Now this is quite a challenging thing to do actually, and there's not a lot of space to do it, so it's worth noting that it's not the easiest sort of position to get yourself through. Once you reach this next section though, you can clearly see you need the POW, and you need to hit this on-off block to release it. So upon hitting the bomb, the POW will be lifted, but immediately crushed by a P-switch which was hidden in the same position, thus stopping you from progressing further. You can be laughed at by small babies for your insolence. Luckily, Link comes with a sword, so when hitting that you could use said sword to hit the POW block and move on through the level. Another weird setup here, the down arrow is useful against munchers because you can push them in directions. However, it appears that you'd want to push this muncher into the gap, but the way it's set up means that you'll actually just be pushing the muncher across the gap and blocking yourself from progressing through the level. At this point you have pushed the muncher too far and there is nowhere for you or the muncher to go, and you cannot proceed without dying. So let's give this muncher a quick little snack. The correct thing of course is just to jump over the top of the muncher and then proceed through the level as Mario without your Link power up. Now this section, it looks like you might need to jump forwards to get across once hitting this bomb. However, there is a slight delay in bombs when you do this, so you would not be able to get through this blue point here. Instead, the bomb will release you downwards into this section. If you had tried jump forward, you would likely hit one of those 2 munchers above, but instead you make your way down and into the next section of the level with a door. And here it's a similar setup, but there's a little bit of challenge to this one, and I will come back to the challenge in this level. There's a reason I keep pointing out sections that are hard. But behind these red blocks there is a Monty Mole waiting to take away your power up, which will stop you progressing further through the level. So you have to time your running jump to hit the on-off block and then sword to kill the Monty Mole. Once you've made it through here retaining your power up, you can make your way upwards and a giant muncher flops down from the sky before you can reveal the vine moving forwards. Now if you haven't been paying attention in the level, it is possible to climb the vine. However, there is an on-off switch hidden just off the screen to the right, which Link's bombs can activate, allowing you to climb the vine with the on-off switch in a different setup. Which means when you reach this stage, you'll be able to proceed instead of having to take that spike at the top. This section here has 2 options and 2 outcomes. So you can either down dash as Link and you will fall all the way down, or you can go through damage and move to the left. As you saw, the whole level just got blown apart there, and you would fall down into this section below, which is a soft lock. Now additionally, if you do manage to somehow react fast enough to the explosion and jump, there's a spring well placed here to either bounce you into these spikes or knock you down to the soft lock, of which once you arrive there is nowhere to go. This soft lock's quite a good one. You've got 2 cannons shooting mushrooms at you at different rates and a spike block above there. Now the way that I actually did this the first time is time the iframes with collecting the mushrooms. So as you can see, you can just about jump over a mushroom whilst you still have your iframes, which will expire as you reach the top. So there's my iframe started, I jump over the first mushroom, I jump up and take the death there. And that's how you avoid that one. Assuming you successfully avoid the soft lock and you can proceed forward onto level, you get this quite clever room just through this pipe here. Now the reason this room is clever is that there's a lot going on up top there, and there's a lot of reason to proceed through the room. So if we trigger this bomb and move forward with the helmet, you can bounce this muncher up and proceed into level. Now there's a lot going on in here and it's quite complicated at first, but long and short is you want this key, and you don't want to move the snope ball because there is a Link sword behind it. And once you get through to the next section, you will see that you cannot have the Link sword as you're in need of a mushroom. With the Link Sword, of course, it is rated as more powerful than a mushroom, and these vines are well placed here to prevent using a bomb to cheese past. So upon collecting the mushroom, you can proceed, only to find that this whole section of level was a bit of a troll. As you can see, the actual correct solution was to switch the on-off position of the block and then return through the pipe that you had previously gone through. And just you and your lonely friend in this little pit. Having a whole section of your level dedicated to trolling someone is just fantastic, and I really appreciate the work that went into that section. But assuming that you've learnt that and you're making your way back through the pipe with the on-off switch in the correct direction, you'll find yourself falling into this section again, facing yourself with the soft lock that you've probably already found. When you progress through, you'll find it to be the same room, which probably caused a little bit of confusion for the player, and on what is probably the most perfect timer, this cannon comes down and knocks you through the donut. Now the timing on that's really important, because you don't want the player being in that room for too long thinking that the cannon isn't coming, but you do want to give them that moment of dread, like, what have I done wrong? Afterwards, you're left with this room. Now this room is not a good troll room. There is a clear choice between the mushroom and the 1-up, and if you pick the 1-up, you are blessed with a checkpoint and also a mushroom, which makes no sense because the mushroom is on the left. If you go down the left, you do get a fire flower, and the on-off switches will reset, causing you to be stuck. Now, the reason this is bad is it's just a guess. There's no way for the player to figure it out, and I'd say they're more likely to lean towards the side with the mushroom, because you can see what's proceeding onwards. It's not a choice that the player is going to struggle to make, and it's not a situation that the player feels like they've made a mistake in afterwards. It feels like the level has cheated the player. However, once you have made the right decision, you get yourself a checkpoint and you can proceed on to this next section of the level. Now, you can tell that you need the P block to get over the top of these pipes, and the next thing to do is to hit the P block. However, upon doing so, a piranha plant will jump out of a hidden pipe behind the two launchers. Now this was really clever, and having it on the gold pipe is the best way to do it, because it guarantees it'll be out to upset the player. Now the obvious solution next is to go forward into this blue pipe. However, as you see, once the P-switch timer expires, more pipes are revealed. Once you make it through this pipe, you reach this room, and this has a simple how far forward have you moved check. And this was the room where I realised that this whole level would have been better on the nighttime winter theme, because that little bit of slide just would have pushed the player a little bit too far to the right and made this troll that little bit more effective. The only thing I dislike about this troll is that the whole setup has no clue that it's coming. There's no suggestions anywhere on the level that a dry bone shell is due to come down, and there's no suggestion that you would even need one. You can just see that down there you need to damage boost through a hole. However, once you've made it and you've got your dry bone shell, you can push forward onto the next part of the level, which requires you to jump up to the top here. Now, if you sprint, you can actually make it to the top in the dry bone shell, which then puts you in an awkward position, but the main point is that if you jump out of the shell here, there is a bomb off screen that will blow it up. Now, I didn't like this either, because there's no indication that it's going to happen, and it feels unfair on the player to lose their dry bones in that way. Now, it's easy to hit the spike at the top there whilst trying to leave your dry bones shell out of the range of the bomb, and lose your link power, which means you wouldn't be able to damage through this next section to get back to the bottom. And again, this is a theme with after that second checkpoint, in that each of the rooms seem to have a little bit more difficulty, that even once you know what the troll is, you can't always beat the room easily. I will come back to this difficulty, but it is worth noting that it is present a lot after that second checkpoint. Next, you find yourself in this room with an obvious shiny babe below. I actually went for that. I thought maybe this is one of those situations where you just got to go for it and trust level creator. However, of course, it is not. And some players will find themselves in that pit or on that bicycle anyway. Assuming you aren't the worst player in Mario on the planet, you can make your way across this very small gap and find yourself pushed back into it by a very fast launcher, and you'll find yourself waiting for the start timer to tick down before you are killed. Then it's just a matter of climbing this vine and then a few icy platform jumps. And here, the first time I played this level, I stood here for a long time, wondering whether I should hit the on-off switch or not, because the level had trained me that on-off switches have some weird consequences in this level. Upon hitting it, I then waited again, but there is nothing interesting. It is just straight through the door and on to the next stage. Now here, there's a lot going on, and I'm going to first talk about how I did it the first time, in that I could see the blue pipe below the platform there. So I took out these piranha plants using Link's moveset that you can have available to you to avoid falling down the pipe. I then chose to go on through this door and found myself very, very stuck. You get the Nintendo music and then you get set on this really interesting roundabout way to get CP1'd. But it leaves you with this and you think, oh, maybe it's not a true CP1. When in fact it was just a CP2 pushing you back to the start of this quite complicated section, and you just have to wait until the on-off switch is gone to then face this whole section once again. So the problem with that setup there is that, as you saw, there is no Link Sword waiting for you if you go back through this. You should really make the Link Sword tie to the pipe so that you can get back to this section if you don't die after getting that checkpoint reset. Because now I cannot proceed through the level. I can get through to this point over here, and I can leave my dry bone shell out of the range of the bomb, but there is no way for me to damage boost and reclaim my dry bone shell. So, returning to this room, you can make your way down the blue pipe below the platforms. I really like that setup. I think it's really, really clever in the way that you make the player think they've seen the troll, when in fact that is the solution, and that sort of setup is just so clever and it really messes with players' minds. From here there's just a very long climb. I understand it's to say that you ran out of pipes, but I'm not sure that the distance is relevant. Now this section was brilliant, and I was trying to work out what was going on with the snowball. I thought maybe we do want to climb up here, or maybe we don't. I wasn't sure at all, and with your wall going all the way down except for the pipe, that was when I realised I must be near the end. I went to kick the snowball to hit the on-off switch. To be honest, I didn't actually go for the flag, and there it was, hidden away. Quite a little sneaky way to do things, but it was fair for the player because there was nowhere else for them to go in the end in that room. So, all in all, I thought the level was really good. I definitely gave it a heart. I thought it was... You could tell it's been through 10 revisions now, and that you've ironed out a lot of the issues you have with it. I think some of your troll setups are really creative, taking, for example, the Link arrow setup, using what players are used to doing as a skill check, and maybe waiting for a second to make sure they've lined the shot out correctly, only to realise that they've been blocked off. And I also really, really liked, as I said, the snowball on the edge of the cliff. I thought that was really, really clever, and then the hidden blocks with the spring. So all in all, there was some really, really good trolls in the level. However, the difficulty of the level was much higher than what you'd want from a troll level. So part of what makes troll levels fun is that once they've killed you, once you've worked it out, you can then just proceed through the level moving forwards. However, with your level, there were some points that were really, really quite, well, not really, really, but they were technically challenging. Taking, for example, the opening section where you had the P-switch destroy a mushroom and you still need a mushroom to proceed, and the Monty Mole activates that falling mushroom. You only had one block to collect it, and that's quite a challenging thing to do. A better way to lay that out would to be have one ways and have the mushroom drop down into a position where the player can pick it up at their leisure, provided they didn't cross the one ways, in the same way that you have the setup for the dry bone shell. Which leads me on quite nicely to the dry bone shell section. Actually collecting the dry bone shell, I had no major issue with how that was done. I didn't like that there was no suggestion that you would need one. I didn't like that it was hidden so far off screen, but it works for the purpose, and once the player has proceeded past that one way and it drops down, they'll be able to work it out next time, so it's not the end of the world. However, the later part of that stage is the destruction of the dry bone cell. Now, with that bomb being hidden off screen and there not being any really obvious reason, and the player would be watching elsewhere, they might not be sure what happened to their dry bone shell. So I think there needs to be some sort of indication as to what happens. Maybe you could use some hard blocks so that you get a small camera movement to show a bomb next to a dry bones, just to give the player a hint on how to avoid their shell being destroyed. Another challenge in that section is there's a lot of tight maneuvers required. With only having 3 blocks wide to deal with a shell, it's very easy to kick it and then it ruin your chance of proceeding. And although in most levels that would be fine, because this is a level designed to kill you, you're going to be going through that section several times, especially with what follows with the launcher flying towards you. It's important to make sure that each section is doable once you know how it's done. That is really, really obvious from the second checkpoint forwards, because that room with the P-switch timer with the red pipe to the piranha plant, like I said, I feel a gold pipe would have been better, but the red pipe fires it out too quickly and there's not really enough space to get out of the way. And when I was doing my world record runs, I really did feel that. If you jump from just the wrong level on the mushroom, it's so easy to bounce your head and lose that frame where the piranha plant will then get you. If you ignore those difficulty spikes, it is a really, really solid level and a really, really deserving level of the heart. I thought it was fantastic overall. So yeah, that was Curiosity Killed Myself in its 10th version with a sad face by Major314. I have been Avalon, and all that's really left to do now is to take my world record.